Hey guys, Josh here from GBU. Today we're going to be doing a full ground out build on a 5.1 high capper. I'm going to show you pretty much how to assemble the whole pistol from the ground up, how to install the new parts, GBU parts, and a little bit of tips and tricks to show you guys how to get more FPS and little things that we do. So essentially, once your pistol has been taken apart, it can get a bit intimidating when you have 1,000 parts in front of you, but I'm going to do pretty much an in-depth little guide on how to assemble it all. So essentially you want to start off with your pistol lower. So this part does have two parts to it. So it's your main frame and then this little side part. This is a Golden Eagle, so a lot of them are like this, and if you get any Airsoft Masterpiece frames, this whole piece comes as one. So essentially how you want to start off is right here. You want to get your disconnector. And the way your disconnector sits in is essentially it just sits in there as such, like that. And then you want to see that little hole right there. That's where your sear is going to sit in. So we'll grab the sear. Now you can get upgraded cow sears and all that, stainless steel ones, which is good for the wear and tear. So you just want to sit your sear in there so it's free moving, just like that. So your disconnector's underneath, your sear's on top, and then the main part of this section is just your hammer. So with your hammer, if you do have the original one, which was this silver one here, so essentially all we had to do was, there's a little pin, as you can see right there, just get a little screwdriver or hex head, tap that pin out, switch over your hammer and tap that pin back in, and you're good to go. A tip right now is make sure that your strut is free floating. If your strut is tight as you go up and down, it can affect the performance and the functionality of your pistol once it's together. So what I tend to do is just spray some WD-40 inside there, and seeming that these are alloy, just mold it in, and it's eventually going to get nice and free floating. So that's all good. So what you want to do now is sit your hammer inside there, and you want to make sure that it's uncocked. So what I mean by uncocked is that it's sitting up. That's cocked. You want to make sure that you push that sear up. You want to make sure that the pistol's uncocked, and it's just what we found is an easier way to install. So make sure it's up like that. Your sear's sitting back. It can sit on that first tooth as well, and you just leave your strut hanging off the back. So once that's all in place, and it looks right, everything should fit in really nicely. No bits should be stiff or no bits should be out of place. Then what you're going to want to go ahead and do is get this other part and sit it. You may have to move the hammer a little bit just to get it to click in, and there you go. Then you just sit that part on it as such. So what you want to do now is put this whole part together. So put your screw back in. Now you don't want to screw this too tight, because it can press the housing together and your hammer can actually be like it can't free float. So you can actually tighten it to the point where the hammer can't move at all. So you want to get it to a point, I'll show you now, where you're not actually twisting hard. So it's just free floating like that. Alright, so if you do too tight, those two can push together real hard and it can immobilize that hammer. So that's in nice. I'll go a little bit more, and that's good. So now here, your strut's hanging out the back. So that part of your frame's all together, your strut's hanging out nicely. Now is get your pistol grip, then get your trigger, get it in there. Make sure your trigger is free floating like this. If you find that the trigger is sticking, then sometimes it just catches on the top or the underside, or sometimes installing the trigger, your bar can bend. So just make sure it's all straight as such, everything is parallel, and you want to slide that in. Sometimes you do have to tap the top part just to get it in, and once it's in, it's free floating. So once your trigger's in, you're going to want to make sure the trigger bar is pushed all the way forward. You're going to want to drag that on the top. Make sure the strut sits on the outside. You don't want the strut to go inside. You want it to be outside. So do that, push the trigger bar in, and then it should line up flush as such. And your screw holes here should be pretty much on point. So what you want to go ahead and do now is install the pistol grip screws. So what you want to go and do now is connect the pistol grip to the lower, which is done by these grip screws. So we're gonna get these in. Hold the top of the frame and the bottom of the pistol grip together, just so it's all nice and lined up. And you just want to go in slowly as such, and go on the other side and do the same thing. Hold the top, hold the pistol grip, and there you have it. Get that in nice. You don't want to over tighten anything, just to avoid stripping screws. So there you have the lower and the pistol grip. Now from here we're going to assemble the back, so the hammer power regulator and pretty much the whole functioning for the hammer and everything now. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So you've got your back part to your pistol grip, you have your trident spring, and you have your beaver tail. So this is the back part of your high capper. So what you want to do, this can be quite tricky. So what you want to do is make sure that this strut is up. I'm going to try and get this in focus as much as possible, which is right there. So you're going to see that your disconnector is there. So that's the part that pretty much disconnects the hammer. So that goes up and down, and then you got your sear, which is right there. So when you do have your trident spring, you want to make sure that this first part is sitting on the disconnector and the second part is sitting on the sear. So we'll just go ahead and install as such. So it has to look like that. So if you can see here, the first one is on the disconnector, the second one is on top of the sear, and then that final one is just sitting free like that. Now what you're going to want to do is let the strut down, and essentially the strut will be on the middle. Once it's all together, the strut will be on the middle one as such. So what you're going to want to do here now is you're going to want to hold that sear spring in, the trident spring, and then you're going to come with your beaver tail and just slide it straight in as such, just so the holes, that one and that one, kind of line up. There you go. And then another thing to look out for is make sure that this strut part at the bottom is in the little gap that the beaver tail provides as such, so it's nice and free floating like that. So pretty much you can hear it rattle like that. Then you're going to get the back end. You're going to make sure it's all lined up. You've got tabs on either side here. You want to make sure that they go in following the actual pistol grip grooves like that. And then you're going to want to make sure that the strut goes into the top of the base, and then you're going to want to push that up, and you should feel it compressing quite tight. So once that's in nicely, you're going to grab your magwell, holding this. If this slips off a little bit, just make sure it's really, really compact in there. Then you're going to go ahead, get your magwell. Now this is the GBU magwell, so it does fit GE, just slides in perfect. You want to grab your magwell, then slide your fixing pin straight through. Alright, and then you can let go, and that is the back part done. Now what you're going to want to do is test that your hammer is fully functioning, and by that it's pretty much just testing it, so cocking it back and just pulling it. Now if it is a little bit tight, what you can do is put a little bit of WD-40 in there just to wear it in a bit, because with new parts sometimes they are like just rubbing on each other, but that's nothing you can't fix. So from there, testing that your hammer is all good, let it run in. We're going to put a little bit of WD-40, just a little bit, just in there, and we're just going to want to make sure everything's functioning right. Alright guys, so from there we're going to go to the next stage, which is pretty much putting your thumb safeties on. So grab your thumb safeties. For this one we have, obviously we're doing a painted pistol, so we have one that is painted and then the other side will just stay silver because I didn't get one painted in time. So what you're going to want to do here can be a little bit tricky, so watch this and use this advice to your advantage. Another little trick which I highly recommend you guys do is when you're taking your pistol apart, make sure you do have a little box or something that you can put your little parts in, because they are super finicky little parts, especially the little screws and all that. So take it apart, put everything in a little box so you don't lose it. What you're going to want to do here is, if you can see in front of me, you have three little components. So you have the spring, then the front and the back. So these essentially help the thumb safeties click in and makes your pretty much your slide catch and all that function. So what you want to do here is, these do go in, if you hold your pistol like this to the side and you see this hole right there. So there's a little hole right, oh, can I get it? Right there. So what you're going to want to do is put the small one in. Put the small one in first, facing the, let's get the thicker side down. So you want to put it in like that. So you're going to put the smaller one in, then you're going to want to put the spring in, then you're going to put the larger one in with the small side down and the thick side out. So essentially those small sides hold the spring in. Then what we're going to do is grab the thumb safety, the larger one, and you want this to be facing up whenever you do install this. So we're going to install this up, and you don't want to push it down the whole way. Can you see that I've left a little gap there? So that gap is really going to help you out now, because as you can see this little tab is poking out. You're going to want to bring that tab so it's compressed in. That tab is compressed in, and then what you're going to want to do is push your thumb safety in, and then that tab is resting on the outside of your thumb safety. And then you can see at the front here where your slide catch is going to be, that's compressed as well. And then what we're going to do is go on the other side, and then we're going to install that facing the same way, which it was up, and then we're just going to push that in nice and tight, and then that's that. Then what you're going to want to do now is push them down, and then from here you're going to want to test your hammer again, because it can obstruct the hammer. So as you can see now, the hammer is a little bit tight. Wear that in, and you can see that loosened up really quick. Cool. So that's pretty much the lower part done. If you do have issues, then obviously feel free to contact us, but slow this video down. I'm trying to explain it as slow as possible. So that's the lower part done. That's pretty much ready to go. Oh, actually, we will put in the mag release. So GB have just released the extended mag release, which looks really cool, which you can color coordinate. So you'll see that this side has a circle, that side has like a key shape. So you want to grab your mag release. You want to grab your mag release as such, put it through like that, hold that, turn it around, and then you're gonna, so it's cool with these because you can actually place where you want this mag release. So if you want it pointing up or that, for the sake of looks, we'll have it on a slight angle. Put the screw in the top and just screw it in, holding the position. Very cool. You'll see your mag release just have no spring at all, so that's because you need to get a little flathead and go in there. So holding holding that side of the mag release, push that towards the pistol, and you're going to want to turn this clockwise and then release. And that activates the spring, and now you have a fully functioning mag release ready to go. So that's the lower part of your pistol, absolutely complete. Starting to get there. Make sure your spring tensions, everything is just functioning. And now we'll go on to now sorting out the barrel, the seals, and the things that pretty much give you the power and the FPS. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Alright, so what we have here is the bucking and the housing for the barrel that's in a stock GE. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to show you how to install in this video the GBU Pro Series barrel. A lot of you guys have been asking about it. There will be released within the next 2.5 weeks. That's not a promise, that is just a time frame. So essentially the barrels in there, they are plastic, and if there are, or you do have a pistol that comes with alloy, that's cool as well, but just for that upgrade you do want to have a tighter bore in your pistol barrels just to give you that FPS boost. So what you want to do is go ahead and unscrew these 2 screws here on the left side, and again have a little box or something that you can put these screws in, because they are super easily lost, and the amount of times I've lost these screws is ridiculous. So that can go in there, and then take off number 2. And that's number 2. So you just want to pop this open, and there's 2 parts. Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. So when you do open it up, your barrel will come out. Then you have this rubber part here, which is called a bucking. So essentially when your nozzle hits that, that's what's going to give you the FPS and the seal. So the standard ones aren't that bad, but because we do want to make this a competition pistol, I will show you the tricks that we use. So take the original bucking out. For this video's sake, we will be obviously using this, so whatever I say, just use this one instead. So what you want to do now is grab your upgraded barrel as such. Now, because the GE barrel, if you can see there, has 2 flat side tabs which correspond with the tabs right there, and there's no tabs on the GBU barrel. So what we're going to do is get the Dremel, and we're just going to shave down those tabs. So as you can see, there's one there which cuts the curve flat, so we're just going to take them down. That's one. And then we're going to take out the other one. So you just want to take out that tab just enough to make it circle as the rest of it. Then we're going to go on this one and do the same. Alright, so that's that done. Absolute 2-second job. So what we're going to do now is work on the FPS and the things that really make these high cappers punch good numbers. So what we're going to do is use our custom. These haven't been released yet, but we are still in prototype stages. So we're going to install our custom bucking onto our pistol. So that's just like the original one, that's going to sit on there. Now you can tape that, or you can glue it. These sit on really tight, so I'm pretty much just going to leave it. But yeah, I do suggest that you tape or glue that bucking on from the outside. So we're going to sit that in there. Make sure that little tab lines up with that as such. Then we're going to put the other side back on, and you want to make sure that the housing closes perfectly. Now if your bucking is too large on the outside, or there's something not right, you'll find that your housing won't close completely. As you can see here, sometimes it can sit out like this. You want to make sure it's fully closed, so then when you do go to install it, in your outer barrel, you're not going to have any issues getting it in and out. So then we're going to go ahead now and put those 2 screws back in the housing. And again, you don't want to push this too tight because you can actually snap these screws, and once you snap these screws, you're going to need a whole different housing to get the screws, or just replacement screws. So we're going to put that in. That's good. Now what I'm going to want to do, or what you're going to want to do, is put a little bit of glue. This is just what I recommend. You're free to do whatever, but just to glue the barrel to the housing here. So I'll just go with some Tarzan grip, not too much, just enough so you know that your barrel's not going to blow out. It doesn't anyway, but you can't be too careful. So you're just going to want to let that sit. Now while that's drying, that dries within 2 minutes, we're going to drill out this outer barrel. So the outer barrels that we will release the next batch, they will already come with a 9.5 mil where you can pretty much fit the barrel straight through. For everyone that has one or has purchased one in the last month or so, you will have to do this. So what we're going to do is just grab a 10 mil drill bit and just drill straight through there to allow the barrel to go through. So I'll quickly go and do that now, and I will be back. Alright, so as you can see here, I've just drilled that out, 10 mil. You will not have to do this in the future, just reiterating what I said before. Just with the first batch that we got, the measurements were just a bit out. So now what you're going to want to do is get your barrel, slide her through the outer barrel, make sure the front is all good. And you just turn this little clip there and slide her all the way in. And that's supposed to line up as such. Now we've used an extended barrel because I will end up putting a hop up on this one as it is a comp barrel, but it doesn't have to. So that's all in, that's all solid, good to go. So what we're going to want to do now is grab your slide, so whatever slide that is, and we're going to want to install the housing. So the blowback housing, the nozzle spring and whatnot. So what I suggest is take your nozzle out, get a little bit of WD-40 and just, or oil, I just use WD-40, but grab oil, just oil it up. Put that oil on that piston head as well. And put that back. Now you want to make sure that your nozzle is, now people think because if it's tight or it doesn't go up and down freely that the seal is tight. Try and avoid that. What you want to essentially make sure is that when you move this nozzle up and down, there's not a lot of flex, so that just shows that the piston head is nice and solid and it wants to be free moving. So what you're going to want to do is put your blowback housing in like that, push it straight up. The way you can gauge it is if here lines up and everything connects perfectly right there. So yeah, what we do, we just put the nozzle spring, so we put the housing in. You can screw the housing in, but in this case I've just done this, and then just grab something like a small little screwdriver and then push that nozzle spring as such. A lot of you, that's a little trick to put the housing in then the nozzle spring. A lot of you guys try to put the nozzle spring on the housing and then pull it in, which then obviously sometimes it pops out. So that's a little tip and trick. Then we're going to go ahead and put that screw back in the end of the blowback housing. You don't want to go too tight with this either. You just want to make sure it's in just enough, because that's not going to come out regardless. So it's pretty much flush with the back of the slide. Then we're going to install our, oh actually before that, we're going to test the nozzle. So as you can see here, it is really tight spring and it's free moving. So you want to test that. That's exactly what you want, that quick return and that real tight snap back, because that's going to help with the tighter bucking that we've put in, because it's going to be a tighter seal, so you do need that nozzle to return faster. If you do keep the normal nozzle spring, it will have trouble feeding because the nozzle will just sit inside that bucking, and you just need something to return it real quick. So that's all good. Now we're going to install the GBU cocking handle. Just sit it up as such, and then we're going to screw that in. Nice and easy. There you go. Make sure that's all nice. Test again your nozzle, making sure you haven't tightened it too much where it's compromised the functionality. So that's all good and well. So that's that ready to go. Now what we're going to want to do is get your barrel and put it through your slide and push that in, and then here is where you can test your seal. So you'll see here that your nozzle, as you can see there, once it's in, that your nozzle is stuck in the seal, which is a good sign. You don't want it too tight where it follows it the whole way. You want it to disconnect at about halfway. If it's too tight and it's following it the whole way, like I said, you will have feeding issues. So we're going to go ahead now and put in the final part, which is our GBU high capper. We really like the 45% spring. We just find that for the build and the combo that we use, that the 45% is ideal. Then what we're going to do is grab our guide rod. So what you're going to want to do is get your guide rod, put the spring on top of that, bring that all the way down. We're using a GBU custom plug. You want to make sure that's all free floating. There's nothing grinding or obstructing that. Then what you're going to want to do is, just like you're injecting something, or just like you're using a needle as such, you want to put in the front of the guide rod, and then you're going to want to let go so it sits on that pin. And then, so then you're going to install your guide plug, inject that in front, and then the guide plug will just slide straight through, which gives it a nice little accent at the front. So that's the top part done. Now, pretty much the last part is get your lower that we earlier assembled, and then you're going to want to get your top part, your slide that on top, push this little tab down. I know a lot of people just slide that real quick to push it down. Try and avoid that. Just push that down. The slide should comfortably come back as such. And what you're going to want to do is, you got two little cutouts on the slide, so you're going to want to bring that first one to match up here. Then you're going to want to get your slide catch here, and then you're going to put the post in the hole as such, line that up and push that straight through. And again, the reason that stays in there is because of those little posts that we put in earlier. And then you're going to let go, and you're just going to want to make sure that it's fully functioning. And to me, that is really, really good. That is really good. So with all that upgrade and the way we've put that together, just from doing this for a while, I can assume that the FPS will be above 300 FPS, maybe like 315, 320. So the last part, having all the good parts, the upgraded springs, the barrels and everything, the last part that you do need will be the 9-ball gas route, which it does add 15 to 20 FPS to your pistol. So essentially you just replace that gas, let me get that in focus. Essentially just replace that gas route with this one there. I'll quickly do that now. So first you're just going to see this little pin here. You just want to punch that out, super easy. As such, pull it out the other side. Don't put that in. They're going to be like, what the fuck? You want to hold down that spring, pull the pin out, pull the top out, and gently release that. That can sit there, and then essentially this rubber part, the gas route, will come out, replace it with your 9-ball one, which pretty much it just regulates the gas coming out, so it does pressurize it, which does give you more FPS. Yeah, so then you're going to want to go ahead and put this back in. Hold that down. Put your feed lip with the new gas route back in. Put the pin back in. If you need to hammer it, do it. And then you are ready to go. So that's that. You just want to check that your mag release is all functioning, which it is really well. So that's really good. Now for the last part, we're going to install our GBU mag base. So this is super simple. You're just gonna, at the bottom of your mag, push that, slide it off, and off she comes. Then you pretty much just grab your alloy one, slide it up, push this little button in, and then sometimes it does get caught. So what you want to do is just go from the top side and just make sure that little button comes out, as you can see there. Now this hole, on different magazines, it may have different compatibility, but I just had to get a small drill bit and just make this hole slightly larger, just so that button clips in. So depending on your make and model, you may have to modify that. So now we have a custom mag base, and it fits in well with the new mag wells we have, and you can just see that that is such a cool design of pistol, and just the colorways on it are just phenomenal, and everything is fully functional. The springs, the recoil, everything about it is just super good quality. So if you do want to go on and buy all these parts that we've put in today are available. The mag base, the mag well, the mag release, the trigger, the hammer, the cocking handle, barrels will be available very soon. All the springs inside, the outer barrel, everything that you've seen today is available. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. We are more than happy to assist you guys. That's enough from me. I hope this has helped you guys out, and I'll speak to you soon.